Brothers and sisters, people of Africa, people of the world, today I rise not to speak in riddles, not to use the polished language of diplomacy that hides knives behind smiles, but to speak plainly. They have placed before us a so-called peace plan presented by former American President Donald Trump, branding it with promises of prosperity, investment, and reconciliation. But strip away the wrapping, and its substance is revealed. It is not peace. It is domination, humiliation dressed as reconciliation. It is the forcing of a people to accept chains and being told those chains are bracelets of gold. This is not peace. Peace is not when the stronger dictates every line, while the weaker is expected only to sign. Peace is not when the suffering of a people becomes a bargaining chip for investors. Peace is not when sacred rights are erased, dignity negotiated away, and sovereignty postponed to eternity. Peace is not the silence of the oppressed. It is the justice that allows them to stand tall. When Donald Trump announced his plan, some rushed to applaud. They called it pragmatic, bold, at least something. But a poisoned cup remains poisoned no matter how beautiful the glass. A rotten fruit cannot nourish, no matter how sweet the first bite. What kind of peace is this, where the occupier keeps his boot pressed on the chest of the land, and the world is told to applaud as if justice has been served? What kind of peace divides the land with walls, dictates life through checkpoints, forces mothers to watch their children suffer because they cannot reach hospitals in time, and raises children under drones instead of open skies? What kind of peace tells the dispossessed to accept crumbs while the thief feasts openly? What kind of peace offers the robbed man a seat at the table only if he agrees to stop asking for his stolen bread? True peace cannot be written in Washington offices or drawn on maps thousands of miles away. It must be born from the soil of Palestine, breathed through the voices of Gaza, and shaped by the will of its people. What kind of peace discusses the future of a nation without its presence, demands signatures but silences voices? This is nothing but the old arrogance of empire, deciding, dictating, pretending to know what is best while erasing the people whose fate is being sealed. They call it the deal of the century. But whose century is this? Whose deal is it? Is it the century of the oppressed who endure siege, blockade, exile, and humiliation yet rise each morning with unbroken will to exist? No, it is not their century. Is it the century of the child in Gaza who has never known a single day without fear, who falls asleep to the buzzing of drones instead of lullabies, who wakes not to school bells but to collapsing walls and neighbors' screams? No, it is not their century. Is it the century of the farmer whose olive trees were planted by his ancestors, whose hands ache to touch the soil, yet he is forced to watch as bulldozers uproot them, settlers burn them, and soldiers trample them under their boots? No, it is not his century either. This deal is not written for the weak. It is not crafted for the refugee who has carried the key to his stolen home for 70 years, waiting for the day he can return. It is not made for the grandmother who keeps that key tied in a cloth, showing it to her grandchildren as proof that justice must someday prevail. It is not designed for the prisoner who sits behind bars for daring to raise his voice. It is not for the mother who counts the names of her sons on gravestones. No, this deal is written for the powerful. It is written for the occupier who wishes to wash his hands of guilt while keeping the land he stole. It is written for politicians in their palaces, flying in private jets, men who never once walked barefoot on the rubble of a fallen home, never inhaled the dust of a demolished neighborhood, never heard the cries of parents searching for their children beneath collapsed walls. This deal is for those who sit in air-conditioned halls, drawing borders with rulers and pens, moving lives and histories as if they were chess pieces. They sit at polished tables, drinking wine while deciding the fate of millions, never once wiping away the blood, never once feeling the heat of the fires that burn. They dare to call this the deal of the century, but it is nothing more than the betrayal of a century. It is not a vision of peace. It is a contract of surrender. It is not the voice of the people. It is the echo of the powerful speaking only to themselves. It is a deal for the strong to remain strong, for the thief to remain in possession, for injustice to be painted as stability. And they expect the world to clap, to nod, to accept this theater as reality. But reality is not written in Washington offices. Reality is written in the blood, the tears, and the resilience of the people who live and die under occupation. They call it peace, but it is a peace of chains. It is not the peace of equal hands shaking. It is the peace of the jailer locking the cell and telling the prisoner to be quiet. It is the silence forced upon the oppressed, not the freedom chosen by the people. They call it peace, but it is the stillness of graves, the quiet of suffocated voices, the illusion of calm built upon the screams of the silenced. That is not peace. It is submission, domination clothed in new words. They call it compromise. But what compromise is this? A true compromise requires both sides to give and both sides to gain. Here, only one side is told to surrender everything, its land, its sovereignty, its dignity, while the other side keeps all it has taken by force. They call it compromise, but in truth it is confiscation, the legalized continuation of robbery. It is the master telling the servant, "Give me your last loaf of bread, and in return, I will let you live another day." It is the thief telling the robbed, "Keep the corner of your house while I claim the rest." That is no compromise. It is humiliation disguised as negotiation. They call it realism. But what kind of realism is this? Not the realism of justice, not the realism of coexistence. It is the realism of empire, the claim that might makes right, that the weak must bow before the strong. It is realism only for those who build walls and settlements, who command tanks and drones, who bury justice under concrete and barbed wire. They call it realism because they have the power to redraw maps. But maps drawn by oppression are written in sand. The tides of history will wash them away. What is offered here is not peace. It is inequality carved into stone, a monument to injustice erected before the world. It is an attempt to write oppression into permanent law, to turn occupation into normalcy, to declare exile as destiny. It is the effort to sanctify theft, to place a seal of legitimacy on land stolen from its rightful people, to normalize the abnormal, to eternalize the temporary. They want the world to believe that oppression can last forever, that dispossession can be made permanent, that stolen homes can become legal homes. But no matter how many signatures they collect, no matter how many speeches they deliver, no matter how many billions they promise, truth cannot be buried forever. Theft cannot be turned into law without making law itself a crime. Exile cannot be made permanent without making humanity complicit in cruelty. Occupation cannot be baptized in the language of peace and expected to be accepted. They can rename it, decorate it, disguise it as compromise, progress, or stability. But oppression by any other name is still oppression. Chains wrapped in silk remain chains. And as long as those chains exist, there will be no peace. Only resistance, only struggle, only the unyielding cry of a people who refuse to disappear. Rights are not the property of presidents to trade, nor the gifts of empires to bestow. Rights are given by God, by history, by existence itself. The right of a people to live free on their own land cannot be signed away in Washington, cannot be negotiated away in Paris, cannot be dismissed in Tel Aviv. No paper, no plan, no so-called deal of the century can erase the truth. Palestine belongs to its people. And when you attempt to build peace on the erasure of truth, you do not build peace. You build an illusion, a fragile lie waiting to collapse. The loopholes in this plan are wide enough to drive tanks through. One is the illusion of statehood. They speak of offering Palestine a state, but look closely and you see it is no state at all. A state without control of its borders, its airspace, its security is not a state. It is a prison with a flag. They tell the people of Gaza, "You will govern yourselves, but we will decide how you move, who you trade with, how you defend yourselves, what you build, and who you call your allies." Is that sovereignty? Or is it simply occupation refined under another name? Another loophole is the promise of economic miracles. They say billions will flow, investments will come, jobs will be created. But where have we heard this before? Here in Africa, they told us the same lies. They said, allow us to control your resources. Allow us to dictate your policies. In return, we will bring development. Did it happen? No. The wealth left our soil, the poverty remained behind. Now they tell Gaza the same story. Give up your rights. Give up your claims to Jerusalem. Accept permanent settlements on your land. And in exchange, they say, we will build you factories and roads. But my brothers and sisters, a people does not eat dignity, yet no people can survive without it either. Economic promises cannot replace justice. A factory cannot substitute for freedom. A loan cannot substitute for liberation. Another loophole is the permanent legitimization of settlements. Land stolen inch by inch, olive tree by olive tree. They claim this plan merely recognizes reality on the ground. But whose reality? The reality created by bulldozers, by walls, by soldiers with guns. If a thief breaks into your home and squats there for 10 years, does that make him the rightful owner? If a stranger drives you into a corner of your own house and then offers you money to stay quiet, is that justice? Yet this plan seeks to cement exactly that. Injustice turned into permanence, theft legalized, dispossession recognized. And then they speak of Jerusalem. They treat it as theirs to give away, theirs to decide. They say the holy city will be united under one side, while Palestinians must accept scraps outside its gates. But Jerusalem is not for one man, one state, or one empire to monopolize. It belongs to history, to faiths, to its people. To deny Palestinians their place in Jerusalem is to deny them their heart, to cut their spirit in half. Can there be peace when the heart is denied? Can there be peace when holy ground is reduced to a bargaining chip? I say to the world, this is not peace. It is surrender, and let it be clear. Africa knows this game too well. We were told to surrender our land for protection. We were told to surrender our languages for education. We were told to surrender our faith for civilization. We were told to surrender our sovereignty for modernization. And every time we surrendered, we lost more, until we stood up and said no more. The people of Gaza, of Palestine, have said no more. They refuse to accept a future where their children grow up behind walls, where their passports are stamped with humiliation, where their land is mapped by foreigners. And I stand with them. Burkina Faso stands with them. Africa stands with them. But I do not come here only to criticize. It is easy to tear apart what others propose. I come also with advice, with vision, with conviction. For peace to be real, it must be built on justice, on equality, on mutual recognition, not on imposition. The world must abandon the illusion that peace can be bought with money while rights are ignored. Peace is not a business deal. It is a covenant of dignity between peoples. If the West truly seeks peace, then let them listen. First, recognize the right of Palestinians to full sovereignty over their land. Not a half-state, not fragmented enclaves, but a state that controls its borders, its air, its water, its resources. Without this, all talk of peace is just noise. Second, dismantle the settlements. If you truly seek peace, stop building walls of division. No man can negotiate his future while a bulldozer stands at his door. Third, ensure that Jerusalem is shared, respected, and treated as a city of all faiths, not the possession of one. Peace without justice in Jerusalem is no peace at all. Fourth, guarantee the right of refugees to return or be compensated with dignity. For too long, their exile has been treated as temporary, yet generations have passed. A wound left untreated does not heal, it festers. Some will say these demands are unrealistic, too bold, too uncompromising. But I ask, is it realistic to demand a people give up their dignity forever? Is it realistic to expect children to grow up in cages and never resist? Is it realistic to think you can build peace upon oppression? The only realism is justice. Without justice, there will be endless plans, endless summits, endless signatures, but no peace. And let me tell the West, the powerful, the architects of these deals, if you truly want peace, Africa is ready to help. I, Ibrahim Traoré, am ready to play my role. We have lived oppression. We have lived colonization. We have endured the lies of development that robbed us. We have fought for freedom, and we know the price of dignity. If you want mediators who will not be bought, who will not be intimidated, who will not place business before justice, then turn to Africa. Let us help build a peace that is not false, not temporary, not one-sided. Let us guarantee that the oppressed are heard. If you are sincere, we will stand by you. But if you want us only to rubber stamp injustice, then we will expose you, denounce you, and refuse your chains. To my brothers and sisters in Palestine, I say, do not despair. You are not alone. Your suffering is seen. Your struggle is shared. To the fathers who cannot provide bread because of the blockade, to the youth who dream only of freedom, I say, Africa remembers you, Africa supports you. And to the people of the West who truly desire peace, who do not wish to see their governments spread endless wars, I say, raise your voices. Demand justice. Trump's plan may try to write history with the ink of power, but history is ultimately written by the persistence of the people. No empire lasts forever. No injustice survives eternity. If today they try to silence Gaza with promises of investment, tomorrow the voice of resistance will return louder, because dignity cannot be bought. And let me assure the world the cause of Palestine is not isolated. It is tied to every people who fights for sovereignty, for freedom, for dignity. When Gaza is free, humanity is freer. When Palestine breathes, justice breathes. Until that day, let us all continue to say with one voice, this is not peace, this is surrender, and we reject it. If those in power are ready for true peace, let them prove it. Let them remove the chains, not polish them. Let them return the stolen, not justify the theft. Let them sit at the table with equals, not with subordinates. Then, and only then, will peace come. And when it comes, Africa will be there, not as a spectator, but as a guarantor, as a brother, as a witness that justice was done.